After my parents kicked me out for refusing to give them my lottery win for their golden child, I built my empire and became their landlord. So, I'm 29, male, and I've always been the black sheep in my family. Like, from day one, my younger brother, 22, male, Alex, was the golden child who could literally do no wrong. Mom and Dad, Karen, 55, female, and Dave, 58, male, practically worshipped the ground he walked on, while I just had to figure stuff out myself. I'm talking from literal childhood. There are family photos where they're both looking adoringly at him while I'm partially cropped out of the frame, not even exaggerating. The difference in how they treated us was so obvious, it was painful. Like, when Alex wanted new tech or sports gear, they'd rush out the same day to cop it with zero hesitation. When my laptop died during finals week in my senior year, Dad looked at me like I'd asked him for a kidney. Figure it out, we're not made of money. So, I had to use the public library computers to finish my assignments while Alex was gaming on a setup that cost more than my first car. I'd come home at midnight from the library to find them all laughing in the living room, completely oblivious to my struggle. My 12th birthday gift was a $15 gift card to GameStop that my mom probably got as a free reward from buying Alex's stuff. Still had the free with purchase sticker on the back that she forgot to remove. For Alex's 12th, a whole freaking gaming setup with a new PS5 gaming chair and this insane curved monitor that probably cost more than all my birthdays combined. It wasn't just material stuff either. His mediocre sketches went straight to the fridge with proud magnets, while my architectural drawings for school projects, which actually won competitions, went nowhere. I literally won a statewide design competition in 11th grade that came with a $1,000 scholarship, and they skipped the award ceremony because Alex had a regular season baseball game. His C+ in math got celebrated with a trip to Six Flags. He's been working so hard, he deserves a break. My 3.8 GPA? That's what you're supposed to do. No celebration, not even a good job. When I got into college with a partial scholarship, I learned pretty quick that, in our house, Alex was basically royalty, and I was the peasant who should be grateful for table scraps. The crazy thing is, I think they genuinely didn't see the difference in how they treated us. In their minds, they were perfect parents who loved their children equally. The delusion was wild. My extended family saw it, though. I remember my Uncle Tom once commenting on how they let Alex get away with talking back while I got grounded for the same thing. My mom got so defensive that she didn't speak to him for months. My best friend Jake was the only one who truly saw what was happening. He'd come over and witness the favoritism firsthand. Then we'd go back to his place, and I'd vent until I couldn't talk anymore. His family was normal. They treated both their kids equally. It made the messed up dynamic at my house even more obvious. The first time Jake came over in 6th grade, he was straight up confused by how my parents acted. By high school, he stopped wanting to hang at my place because it made him uncomfortable to see how they treated me. Dude, no offense, but your parents are toxic AF, Jake would say, and he was right. But when you grow up in that environment, you start to think maybe you're the problem. Maybe if I were just better somehow, they'd love me the same way. I actually tried for years. Kept my room cleaner than Alex's, got better grades, stayed out of trouble, was polite to their friends. Nothing made a difference. Eventually, I gave up trying to win their approval since it seemed impossible. As we got older, the favoritism got worse. When I graduated high school with honors, I got a card with $100 in it from my proud parents. The card wasn't even personalized, literally just a generic graduation card from the grocery store rack with their signatures. They didn't even come to the honor ceremony where I got special recognition. When Alex graduated 2 years later with barely passing grades, brand new Ford Mustang. Not even joking, a freaking Mustang GT Premium that cost over $40,000. My dad made a whole speech at his graduation party, which had catering and a DJ, about how proud he was that Alex overcame his challenges, also known as being lazy and entitled, to graduate. The party probably cost more than what they'd spent on me my entire senior year. I had to work at an Amazon warehouse doing night shifts to pay for state college while they emptied their savings, and took out a second mortgage to send precious Alex to NYU. They helped him move into his dorm, bought all his furniture, set up a monthly allowance of $1,000, which I only found out about because Alex accidentally sent me a screenshot meant for his friend showing the transfer. I took a Greyhound bus to college with 2 suitcases and figured it out on my own. My dorm had the bare minimum. I was using milk crates as bookshelves, while Alex had a fully furnished apartment-style dorm with a 55-inch TV and leather couch. Every achievement I had was treated like whatever, while Alex getting a B- was celebrated like he'd solved world hunger or something. I'd call home all excited about acing a difficult exam or getting praised by a professor, and my mom would listen for 30 seconds before, changing the subject to whatever amazing thing Alex had supposedly done that week. "Oh, that's nice, honey. Did I tell you Alex joined a fraternity? They're very exclusive." Meanwhile, I was working 30 hours a week, maintaining a 3.7 GPA in architecture, a notoriously difficult major, and involved in design clubs. None of which seemed to register with them at all. All this crap really got to me. I started having serious anger issues, feeling like no matter what I did, it wasn't enough. My roommate freshman year actually requested a room change because he said my constant tension was affecting his sleep. That was a wake-up call. I needed to find a way to channel this rage. That's when I found the boxing gym near campus. The owner, Cole, was this old-school dude who'd been in the amateur circuit back in the day. Built like a tank, face that looked like it had stopped a few too many punches, but eyes that were surprisingly kind. He was about 60, a former Marine who'd opened the gym after retiring from construction work. The place was a converted warehouse with basic equipment, heavy bags hanging from chains, a small ring in the center, and the perpetual smell of sweat and disinfectant. Cole saw something in me, probably all that pent-up rage, and took me under his wing. "You hit that bag like it owes you money, kid," he said the first time he watched me train. "But your technique is trash. Let me show you how to channel that anger into something useful." He spent an hour correcting my stance, showing me how to throw a proper jab, how to protect myself. I was a quick learner, and that seemed to impress him. Boxing became my therapy. 3 nights a week, I'd go in and just absolutely destroy the heavy bag, sparring with other guys who had their own demons. It was the only place where I felt like I was good enough. Cole would always say, "In this ring, the only thing that matters is how hard you work and how much heart you got." For the first time, I was being judged on my own merit. I started sleeping better, focusing better in class. The physical outlet helped me process all the anger I'd been carrying around. Within 6 months, I'd lost 15 pounds of fat, gained muscle, and developed enough skill that Cole suggested I consider competing in a local amateur tournament. I didn't win, but I made it to the semifinals, which was pretty good for a first-timer. Meanwhile, Alex just got more entitled. He'd call mom and dad at 2 a.m. from college, expecting them to Venmo him money for emergencies that were actually just him wanting to hit up clubs with his frat bros. If they didn't send cash immediately, he'd guilt-trip them so hard. "I guess you want me to be the only one at the party without the right clothes. Or fine, I'll just sit alone in my room while everyone else has fun." And they fell for it every damn time. I know this because my mom would sometimes call me after these late-night emergencies, all worried about Alex's social standing at college. She never once considered that I might be asleep before a 5 a.m. warehouse shift. He never learned to stand on his own feet, because they were always there to bail him out before he even started dealing with consequences. Failed a class? They'd call the professor to argue about it. Maxed out credit cards? They'd pay them off. Got caught with weed in his dorm? They hired a lawyer to make it go away. Crashed his Mustang while driving distracted? They bought him another car and handled the insurance nightmare. There was literally no mistake big enough for them to let him face actual consequences. I, on the other hand, was working 30 hours a week while taking a full course load just to afford books and ramen. My social life was basically non-existent outside the boxing gym. When I got sick sophomore year with pneumonia and missed a week of work, I couldn't make rent. I had a 103-degree fever and could barely get out of bed, but my manager at Amazon wouldn't approve sick leave without a doctor's note, which I couldn't afford to get. I swallowed my pride and called home for help. My dad's exact words, "You need to be more responsible with your money, Jason. We can't bail you out every time you mismanage your finances." I ended up having to pawn my laptop to make rent that month. Cole found out and quietly slipped me some extra hours doing maintenance at the gym so I could buy it back. I tried talking to my parents about the unfair treatment so many times. They just dismissed me, saying I was being too sensitive or jealous of my brother. Karen would get all defensive like, "We've always treated you boys exactly the same," which was such bullshit that I couldn't even respond sometimes. Last year, I finally got a decent job as a junior architect at this small firm that paid $65,000, enough for me to move out on my own. I was hyped about finally having some independence, but as soon as I told my parents, they immediately started pressuring me about money. Get this, they said that as the older brother, it was my responsibility to help with Alex's grad school applications and expenses. He wasn't even finishing undergrad yet, but apparently I needed to put aside like 30% of my salary for family. When I pointed out that I had student loans and rent to think about, my mom actually said, "Well, You should have thought about that before taking such a low-paying job. Low-paying? I was making decent money for an entry-level position, and they never helped me with a dime of my education. According to them, family comes first, and I needed to step up for my brother's future. Years of being conditioned to feel guilty made it hard to stand up for myself. So, I reluctantly agreed to send them $200 a month, but I also secretly started saving for my own goals too. For years, I dreamed of starting my own custom furniture business. I had a solid plan, but knew I'd need serious startup cash to make it happen. So I started tucking away whatever I could from each paycheck. My friend Jake thought I was insane for giving them anything. "Bro, they're just using you as a wallet at this point," he'd say when we were playing Call of Duty at his place one night. "You know they're not asking Alex to contribute anything, right? Even though he's working that cushy internship his dad's golf buddy set up for him." He wasn't wrong, but breaking free from that family dynamic was harder than I expected. It's like being in a cult. You know it's messed up, but it's all you've known for so long that normal behavior feels wrong. I kept sending the money, but with each transfer, my resentment grew. I'd check Alex's Instagram and see him at expensive restaurants, on weekend trips, buying designer clothes, all while I was eating ramen 4 nights a week to save money. Something had to give. Then something crazy happened. I won $375,000 in the state lottery. No cap. I couldn't believe it. I remember staring at the ticket for like 20 minutes, checking and rechecking the numbers online. My hands were literally shaking. This was exactly what I needed to finally chase my dreams. It wasn't even a ticket I bought regularly, just a random purchase when I stopped for gas after a particularly rough day at work. The architecture firm where I'd been working for 2 years was fine, but the pay was mediocre. $65,000 in a high cost of living area, and my boss took credit for my designs more often than not. I'd been thinking about starting my own custom furniture business for years. I'd been building pieces in the community workshop near my apartment on weekends, selling a few on Etsy for extra cash, but never had the capital to really launch a proper business. The lottery win changed everything. I didn't tell anyone at first, not even Jake. I needed time to process and make a plan. I met with a financial advisor who helped me figure out taxes, which took a big chunk, leaving me with about $240,000 after federal and state taxes, and how to best use the money. I decided I'd use about $180,000 to start my business, put $40,000 in investments for the future, and keep the rest as an emergency fund or operating capital. I spent weeks researching business plans, equipment costs, commercial rental spaces, marketing strategies. I wanted to do this right, but somehow my parents found out, probably because I had to claim the winnings publicly. State law required names of winners to be disclosed. They showed up at my apartment unannounced the very next day. I hadn't spoken to them in nearly 6 months at that point. Not from any dramatic cutoff, but just because our conversations had become so one-sided, all about Alex, that I'd stopped calling, and they rarely initiated contact. "We're so proud of you, son," my dad said, hugging me for what felt like the first time in years. "My mom brought a cake from an expensive bakery. We need to celebrate this blessing." Their sudden interest in my life should have been the first red flag, but part of me, the part that had always craved their approval, was actually happy. Maybe this would be the turning point in our relationship. Maybe they finally saw me as worthy of their attention. We sat down, had some cake, and for about 15 minutes, things were nice. They asked about my job, my apartment, even remembered that I'd been into woodworking, though they referred to it as that carpentry hobby. Then they started making demands. They didn't even try to be subtle about it. They insisted I had to hand over at least $200,000 so they could pay off their mortgage and send Alex to some elite MBA program. Apparently, he'd always dreamed of getting an MBA from Stanford, and this was my chance to be a good brother. I was stunned. Here I was with a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change my life, and they expected me to just give it all away to fund my brother's latest whim and their bad financial decisions. When I told them I planned to use the money to start my furniture business, they went absolutely ballistic. It was like I'd suggested, burning the money in front of them. "After everything we've done for you, how ungrateful," my mom screamed, the mask of a proud parent completely gone. "This is how you repay us? By being selfish? What exactly have you done for me?" I fired back, years of resentment finally boiling over. "You've given Alex everything while I got scraps." My dad got in my face. "We put a roof over your head and food in your mouth, you ungrateful little shit." I lost it. The bare minimum. You did the bare minimum for me while giving Alex the world, and now you want my lottery money? Not happening. The argument got even more heated. My mom started crying, pulling out all the emotional manipulation stops. I didn't raise you to be this selfish. Where did we go wrong with you? You want a list? I shot back. How about the time you forgot to come to my high school graduation because Alex had a freaking soccer match? Or when you told me you couldn't help with my college, but then emptied your retirement for his? Or maybe it was all the birthdays and Christmases where he got everything he wanted while I got whatever was on clearance. My dad's face went red. That's not true, and you know it. We've always treated you boys the same. Bullshit, I enunciated each word clearly. You know what? I've kept receipts. I pulled out my phone and showed them photos I'd saved over the years, screenshots of bank transfers I'd sent them, pictures of Alex's expensive gifts next to my cheap ones, images of them at his events while I sat alone at mine. This sent my dad over the edge. He actually shoved me hard against the wall. You've been documenting us? What kind of son does that? The kind who's been gaslit his entire life, I said, pushing him off me. Touch me again, and you'll regret it. Cole had taught me better than to throw the first punch, but I was ready to defend myself if needed. Give us the money, Jason, my mom said, her voice cold now. It's the right thing to do. Then you're no longer part of this family, my dad spat. Don't call us, don't visit, don't expect anything from us ever again. I laughed in his face. Expect anything? When have I ever gotten anything from you? This is actually perfect. Now the outside matches the inside. You never treated me like family anyway. My mom made one last attempt, switching to a sweet, cajoling tone. Honey, think about what you're saying. We're your parents. We love you. We just want what's best for the whole family. What you want is my money, I said flatly, and you're not getting it. Now get out of my apartment. You'll regret this, my dad said as they left. When you've cooled down and want to come back to the family, you'd better bring your checkbook. I changed my phone number the next day, blocked them on all social media, including LinkedIn, where my dad had suddenly tried to connect after years of no interest in my career. I told Jake what happened, and he helped me move to a new apartment across town just in case they decided to keep showing up. I needed a clean break. Signing that new lease felt surreal, the first time I was truly on my own by choice. With my family drama on mute, I threw myself into planning my business. I used about $180,000 of my winnings to buy equipment, an industrial table saw, lathe, planer, jointer, and other woodworking machinery. Lease a small 2,000 square foot workshop space and industrial area outside the city, and get everything set up legally, LLC formation, insurance, accounting software, website development. The legal stuff was more complicated and expensive than I expected. Permits, liability insurance, workers' comp once I started hiring. But I wanted to do everything by the book. I've always been good with my hands. I worked construction during summers in college, and I'd been designing furniture as a hobby for years, studying techniques from Japanese joinery to Danish modern. Now I had the chance to make it my career. I spent weeks setting up the workshop, organizing tools, building jigs, installing dust collection, getting the workflow dialed in. I hired Devin, a skilled carpenter I met through a woodworking forum. He was 45, fed up with corporate mass production, and his joinery work was next level. He took a pay cut to join me because he believed in the vision, quality over quantity. I never forgot that when the profits started rolling in. Most people wouldn't take a chance on a startup, he told me after accepting the job. But I've seen your designs, man. You've got a vision. That's rare. Coming from someone with 20 plus years in the industry, that meant a lot. We spent 2 months setting up the shop, sourcing sustainable walnut, maple, and cherry, and building our first line of high-end pieces, clean lines, modern style, traditional craftsmanship. Named it Heritage Craft Works. Tagline: Building tomorrow's heirlooms today. Spent way too long on the logo, but I wanted it done right. I threw myself into growing the business. We launched a website, set up social media, and started reaching out to interior designers in the area. Our first commission came from one of Cole's friends, who was renovating his restaurant and needed custom tables. It wasn't huge money, but it was a start. About 3 months after the big fight with my parents, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Alex. Dude, mom and dad are going insane about you cutting them off. They're telling everyone you're having a mental breakdown. Just give them some money and end this drama. I didn't respond, but I did screenshot it and send it to Jake, who replied, Translation: They're pissed their cash cow escaped the farm. A week later, I got an email from my mom to my business account, which was publicly listed on our website. The subject line was, Please read this, son. The content was a long, rambling guilt trip about how they'd sacrificed everything for me and Alex, how families should support each other, and how deeply hurt they were by my selfishness. Not a single word acknowledging their favoritism or apologizing for how they'd treated me. Meanwhile, Devin and I were working our asses off building the business. 14-hour days were normal at first. We got a few local clients through word of mouth. A designer used our pieces in a home that got featured in a magazine. They credited us, and suddenly we had a waiting list. Life was tough but good. For the first time ever, I was living completely on my own terms. No more seeking approval from people who would never give it. No more comparing myself to Alex. No more feeling like I wasn't enough. I still hit the boxing gym twice a week, not just for the workout but to keep my head straight. Cole would always ask how the business was going, genuinely proud of what I was building. "You're making something real," he told me once. "Something that's yours. Nobody can take that from you." I did hear through Jake, who still occasionally talked to Alex, that my brother dropped out of New York University after his junior year. Apparently, it was too challenging and he wasn't being supported enough. Translation, he actually had to work hard for once and couldn't handle it. Without me there to compare him to, my parents had apparently started expecting more from him, and he was crumbling under the pressure. I felt zero sympathy. Welcome to my world, bro. Fast forward 18 months. Heritage Craft Works was thriving. We'd grown to a team of 8, moved into a 5,000 square foot workshop with better lighting and ventilation, and opened a small but high-traffic showroom in a trendy part of town. Our pieces were selling for $5,000 to $15,000, and we had a 6-month wait list with 50% deposits up front. One of our dining tables landed in a celebrity home, which got us a full spread in Architectural Digest and a couple features in National Design Mags as a craftsman to watch. I bought a modest 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in a quiet neighborhood. Converted the detached garage into a personal workshop. Mortgage was cheaper than rent, thanks to a solid down payment. Around that time, I started dating Leah, an architectural historian I met when she visited our showroom for a restoration project. Smart, sharp, called me on my BS, and actually respected what I did, something my family never did. Life was good. In under 2 years, I went from employee to business owner. The boxing gym was still my escape. Cole even had me help train newcomers. I built a solid circle of friends far from the family chaos. And for once, I wasn't chasing approval or carrying anger, just content. Then the economy tanked. Interest rates spiked, housing crashed, jobs vanished. Our wait list shrank from 6 months to 3, but we had a solid cushion and high-end clients who weren't hit as hard. We tightened expenses, optimized material use, and kept the whole team. No layoffs, which was my biggest priority. What I didn't expect was how badly my parents would get hit. Through the grapevine, Jake's mom, who ran into my aunt at Costco, I heard they were struggling bad. My dad had been laid off from his management position at 55, prime too expensive to keep, too young for retirement territory. The company he'd given 20-plus years to basically showed him the door with a mediocre severance package. They had spent everything on Alex's failed education attempts. Apparently, he'd tried and dropped out of 3 different graduate programs after NYU, had maxed out 6 credit cards maintaining their image of success, including a country club membership they couldn't really afford, and were now 3 months behind on their mortgage. I didn't reach out. They'd made their bed. Part of me felt a twinge of sympathy. Nobody deserves to lose their home. But a bigger part remembered how they'd treated me my entire life, culminating in that final showdown over my lottery winnings. They'd never once apologized or acknowledged their favoritism. They'd chosen Alex over and over again. Now they could reap what they'd sown. Then one evening, I was locking up the showroom when I saw them. Both my parents sitting in their beat-up Honda in the parking lot. They looked desperate. I almost walked the other way, but I was curious. "What do you want?" I asked through the driver's side window. My mom was crying. My dad couldn't even look me in the eye. "We're about to lose the house," he mumbled. "Bank's foreclosing next week. We need help, Jason," my mom pleaded. "Just a loan. We'll pay you back." I actually laughed. Like Alex was going to pay me back for Stanford? No chance. "Please," my dad said, and I could see it physically hurt him to beg. "We have nowhere else to go." I thought about all the years of being second best, all the advantages they gave Alex while I struggled, all the times they made me feel worthless, and now they wanted my help. I thought for a minute. Then a wild idea hit me. "Tell you what," I said, "I'll buy your house from the bank, then you can rent it from me. Market rate, of course." Their faces fell. But we're your parents, my mom said, like that was supposed to mean something after everything that had happened. And I'm your son, the one you kicked out, remember? The one who was never good enough. Yeah, this is a business transaction or nothing. They didn't have a choice. The foreclosure was days away, and they had nowhere to go. They agreed to my terms. I contacted the bank the next day, negotiated a deal to buy the house for less than they owed. Banks prefer a sure thing to a foreclosure, and became my parents' landlord. I hired a property management company to deal with them so I wouldn't have to, and made them sign a real lease with all the standard clauses. I charged them exactly what the local rental market dictated, no family discount. In fact, I required a larger security deposit than normal given their recent financial history. Business is business, after all. But that wasn't even the best part. The real karma hit when Alex showed up at my showroom a month later. He looked rough, clearly hadn't been taking care of himself. Designer clothes replaced with wrinkled Target basics. The entitlement was still there, though. "Hey, bro," he said, trying to sound casual as he wandered around looking at our $10,000 dining tables. "This place looks dope. You're doing well for yourself. What do you want, Alex?" I wasn't about to play catch-up with the brother who hadn't reached out once in the past year and a half. "So, I need a job," he said, still trying to maintain his cool guy facade. "Dad said your business is doing well. And I thought, maybe you could use some help with the business side of things. I did take some business classes at New York University before you dropped out, I finished for him. And no, we don't need any business help. We're profitable and growing. Come on, don't be like that. We're family." He played that card so easily, like the last 2 decades of unequal treatment didn't exist. Funny how we're only family when you need something. He got desperate then, his facade cracking. "I've got nothing, Jason. No degree, no skills. I've been living with Mom and Dad, but now with the house situation, I can't even get hired at fast food places. I've tried." I thought about it for a minute. I could just tell him to get lost. But then an even better idea came to mind. "You know what? We do need someone to clean the workshop and run deliveries." His face lit up. "Really? That's awesome. Minimum wage, no special treatment. You screw up once, you're out. And you report to Devin, not me." He didn't love it, but beggars don't negotiate. I told him to show up Monday at 7 a.m. sharp. Monday came, and to my surprise, Alex showed up on time. Devin gave him the rundown of his duties, sweeping sawdust, taking out trash, cleaning the bathrooms, polishing finished pieces before delivery, loading the van, and helping with installations at clients' homes. By lunch, Alex's hands were blistered from sweeping. By the end of the day, he looked like he'd been through war. I overheard him on the phone with my mom that evening when he thought no one was listening. "It's hard physical labor, Mom. My body hurts everywhere. Jason just watches while I do all this grunt work." That wasn't entirely true. I was in my office most of the day working on designs and dealing with client emails, not watching him suffer. But the victim narrative was vintage Alex. I let him vent. He'd never worked a real job in his life. Everything had always been handed to him. This was his first taste of earning something, of the kind of work millions of people do every day without complaint, the kind of work I'd done to put myself through college while he was getting his allowance direct deposited. The real test came at the end of the week, when I handed him his paycheck. His face fell when he saw the amount. $580 for 40 hours at $14.50 an hour. This is it for a whole week of work. He stared at the check like it might be missing a zero. "Welcome to minimum wage," I said. "Maybe now you understand why I work so hard in school." I didn't add that most of our other employees made significantly more. The woodworkers started at $25 per hour with benefits, and Devin made close to 6 figures. Alex wasn't ready for that information yet. He needed to learn the value of work first. He lasted 3 weeks before he started showing up late. Devin gave him one warning. Next time, don't bother showing up at all. The next time it happened, Devin fired him on the spot. Alex came storming into my office, furious. "You can't let him fire me. I'm your brother." His face was red, fists clenched at his sides. "I was only 30 minutes late. There was traffic." "I told you the rules," I said calmly from behind my desk, not even looking up from the design I was working on. "No special treatment. You're fired. Devin will have your final check ready tomorrow." "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" he accused, voice rising. "Seeing me struggle while you live it up as the successful one. You always were jealous of me." "I'm not enjoying seeing you struggle, Alex. But I am enjoying seeing you finally face consequences for your actions, something Mom and Dad never let happen. Maybe if you'd learned this lesson at 16 instead of 22, you wouldn't be in this position. Fuck you, he spat. You think you're so much better than everyone. You got lucky with that lottery ticket. Without that, you'd be nobody. That made me laugh. I was building this business before the lottery, Alex. The money just accelerated my timeline, and even without it, I'd still have my degree, my skills, and my work ethic, none of which you can claim. Now get out of my office before I call security. He left, slamming the door behind him. That night, I got angry calls from both my parents accusing me of being cruel to Alex. I let them vent, then simply said, he didn't do his job. In the real world, that gets you fired. Maybe if you taught him that earlier, he wouldn't be in this position. My mom tried guilt next. He's your brother, Jason. Family helps family. Where was that sentiment when I was working 3 jobs to pay for college while you emptied your bank accounts for his tuition? I countered. Where was family loyalty when I needed help with rent during pneumonia? Family goes both ways, Mom. I'm just returning the exact same support I received. None. So now my golden child brother is working at a gas station, making slightly above minimum wage. My parents pay me rent to live in what used to be their house, and I'm making more money than they ever thought possible doing what I love. Is it petty? Maybe. But after a lifetime of being treated like I didn't matter, watching them depend on me for literally everything feels like justice. Occasionally, I check in with the property manager to see how my tenants are doing. Apparently, my dad finally found a job at a big box hardware store. Alex still lives with them, contributing maybe $200 a month from his gas station job. My mom had to sell most of her designer jewelry on eBay to make the security deposit. Cole from the boxing gym says I should consider forgiving them at some point. Not for their sake, but for mine. Carrying grudges weighs you down, he told me. But that doesn't mean you have to let them back into your life the way they were before. Maybe someday I'll get there. For now, I'm content with the distance and the boundaries I've established. Leah and I are talking about getting engaged. She knows my whole story and has been incredibly supportive. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the one you're born into, she says. And she's right. The family I've built, Devin, Cole, Jake, Leah, and the other people who genuinely care about me, is worth more than the biological connections that cause me so much pain. So, that's my story. From unfavored son to successful business owner and reluctant landlord to my entitled family. Life takes some weird turns, doesn't it?